Get out the insurance cards, get out the copays. The office is open, my friends. Brought to you by drroto.com.
Hello and welcome, my fellow breadheads, to the Green Screens Media universe. You are locked in with us here on One and Done, your fast break of college basketball information, powered by drroto.com. My name is Chris. I am your host tonight, and I did survive Sunday night. Thank you, Eric, for filling in for me. My Niners did. I got to enjoy my Gold Bar whiskey here.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yo,
Solid.
real gold.
Man, it was a great night. But this is a college basketball show. We aren't going to talk about the NFL other than, my team's going to win it all. But I am here with two of the best in the business. We have the captain himself. You could catch him on X at MC Holland34. El Capitan, Mike Holland. How we doing, my man?
I'm doing good, man. Actually, I almost retired at halftime today. Just got done telling you guys that I thought I was going to ship a KOB seat, and everything looked great. Most PMR in the top 20, sitting in fifth. And, North Carolina Cam, who's in the comments already triggering me. The heels stink tonight. Deserve to lose. Just one TV Teddy Valentine. Swallowed whistle away from stealing it at the end. Yeah, you know what? I had Elliot Cadeau, who decided to foul 3 times in 2 minutes and foul out in the second half. Baycott got benched. So, yeah, man, it wasn't a banner night. I had Kolik. I mean, he smashed the slate. So I'm licking my wounds. I threaten to retire every time, but it just keeps – I know there's another slate the next day, and it just keeps pulling me back in. So here I am, back at it again. But excited to do this one tonight, man. We got a 12 gamer for all you folks out there.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Big time coming. Dude, we were talking about it before the show. Baycott dangerous, right? I mean, he's going to drop in price. We're still going to play him, and he's still going to give us duds, but we're going to keep going with him. He's going to get benched again, watch. Absolutely. Anyways, second in the intros here, but as our boy Jay always says, number one in our hearts, the Baron of Bread, Eric the Blue. You can catch him on those Twitter streets at Fantasy Nav. Eric, how we doing, my man?
We're doing all right. I'm glad to be back here on back-to-back nights, right? Like, we are fully ramping up into the heart of the college basketball season, right? We've got a 6-week window where our beloved sport takes over the world. So definitely excited to be out here breaking down the Tuesday slate, and a lot of the excitement has to do with this upcoming Saturday slate. This slate is going to be nuts. I mean, the games are crazy. We can see them on the board. We don't know which ones DraftKings is going to select yet. We don't know what the slate will be, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be one of the big ones that we see here in the new year. So definitely keeping an eye out for that, and keeping an eye on the chat. Mike, you mentioned Cam was in there. We also have someone returning. We were a little worried yesterday. Didn't get our Mama Rocks, but she's here with the what it do, saying hi to Cam. Cam saying hi back. Appreciate everyone jumping into the chat. You guys can jump in there and say hi to us, to Cam, to Mama Rocks, to whoever you like. It is the best place to do that, in fact. Jump up in that chat, say hello, heat us up, whatever it might be. We're ready for a fun one tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, join in the fun. We like it. It's like a family affair. Mama Rocks is always here. Cam's always here. We always have the normals come through. Join them. Be the normals with us. And while you're there, hit those like and subscribe buttons. Join the family in that way. Hit that notification bell. And that way you get all that college basketball information, especially with this 2 months ahead of us coming up. That's just going to be jam-packed full of content. But enough with all that spiel. Let's get into this 12-game slate. I mean, there are some crazy games in this as far as totals and such. I mean, you have the king of the bracket seat. You also have a 2K to first big jam. I mean, a lot of stuff going on here. Eric, what say you on this slate here?
Yeah, I mean, the immediate thing that jumps off the page is there are some insane totals on the board. I get the feeling we're going to talk about those in our showcase game. So, figuring out the right way to attack those is going to be critical. But also, there are some sneaky totals out there. Even some team totals. You look at the Arkansas Missouri game, you look at the Cincinnati West Virginia game. You're going to have to kind of pick and pull from a variety of different games. Those two in particular, they've got some soft pricing, right? So like it's a way to get a little bit different from the center of gravity that will be those two high total games. We have to be careful, right? 4 of the 12 games on the board have some pretty wide spreads. You're going to be watching for blowouts in those ones, right? So, these are games that include players like Zach Edey, Jedi Broom, Donovan Clingan, right? Like some of the most expensive and most explosive players on the board potentially could be on the blowout side, the winning side of a laugher. So have to account for that as we navigate up and down the board. Mike, are you seeing anything different? Have any different themes as we head into the slate?
Yeah, well, tonight they didn't take a big number to win the KOB, and I don't think it's going to take a big number tomorrow. I mean, you look at it, it's like it's just so hard to find value. So there's 13 guys now that are 8K or more, which is a hell of a lot more than there were on tonight's slate. So just looking at it right here, 231 took down the KOB. Normally it's on a traditional slate, you're looking at 250, 260, 270, and then on the crazy slates, you're looking at 300 plus. So I think it's going to be another 230, 240 type of slate. So I think Eric kind of touched on it, the combination of blowouts. There are some ugly totals that we are probably going to skip over, namely the Virginia game, which is I was like, is this a real thing? It looks like an Iowa football line, but we'll be skipping over a couple of games, and then you got larger rotations, man. This rundown that we're about to do, we're going to do 3 showcase games. It's a little tough to navigate just with the way that these coaches are running out so many players. And then you have some uncertainty. I mean, what's Arkansas going to do? Damari Monsanto's back for Wake Forest. How does that affect the guards? So, man, we're going to have to do some navigating in this one. But I think you probably need another 240 to take this one down. And hopefully maybe some injury value pops up. So, Chris, what do you say we dive right into some showcase action?
Absolutely. Let's go head first. We're going to jump into our first showcase game here. We have St. John's +2 at Xavier. Implied total being at 154. St. John's, is looking at 76 implied total points. Xavier at 78. St. John's, they got the 41st offense efficiency. We have 44th in defense, 95th in tempo, 82nd in bench minutes used. Xavier sitting there at 55th in offense, 47th in defense, 54th in tempo, and 222nd in bench minutes used. St. John's, they use a 10 to 11 man rotation. Mike, who are you looking at for this one here?
Yeah, man, how many times you're going to talk about St. John's in this rotation, man? And here we go. It's kind of like an Armando Bacot, except not quite the dramatic fall after a decent game last time out with the 35 fantasy point effort. Joel Soriano, he's 7,700, and he's always in play because we know he has 40 fantasy point upside. You love that he touched 30 minutes again. It's been kind of annoying that he hasn't been seeing bigger minutes, but he's a guy that he only needs 30 minutes to smash a slate. So, there's been some weird games that have been out there recently. They had the obvious blowout with Seton Hall, even though the game ended up at 15. It was almost 30 at one point. The game against Marquette, that was a smash spot. I mean, he almost double-doubled. He had 11 points and 9 boards, but that was only good for 23, almost 24 fantasy points. So just not getting the production from him that we're used to. The shot rate is way down this year. We've talked about that millions of times, but he's nearly double-doubling. So you see what happens whenever he either makes all of his shots that he's not quite getting like he did last year, or if he gets a ton of shots, he's going to be able to nuke slates. So, one thing you'd like to see is maybe a little more shot blocking upside in conference play. I mean, he's got a 6% shot block rate on the season, but in conference play, it's not as high. So, you want to see Joel Soriano pick up some of those stocks in order to kind of elevate his ceiling. But hey, at 7,700, he's kind of in that Bacot territory where it's you damned if you do, you damned if you don't, right? So definitely in the player pool. Chris Ledlum, a name that we always like to say we can't quit him. And here we go again, super volatile, man. He he crushed it a few games ago. Got that 38 piece. Maybe Mama Rocks can put a little more of that juju in the air when he went off against Marquette for 13, 11, 4, a block and a steal. Just a guy that can contribute in so many ways. I mean, the usage rate and shot rate are okay, 19%, high rebounding rate, decent assist rate for a 4-man, but then the block and the steal rate are both above 2%. So, I mean, Ledlum just has so many ways to get there, has such high upside for tournaments. The problem is like there's just so many mouths to feed for St. John's. Obviously, the transfer portal this year, they got a bunch of guys that they can just plug and play, ride hot hands and things like that. So you're never guaranteed 25 minutes for some guys, 39 minutes the next night, and 25 the next night, and 28 and 32. It's just there's nothing really steady like you would find on like a Texas Tech squad. So a little frustrating are Soriano and Ledlum, but we know they have tournament upside. I think RJ Lewis is a little interesting. I mean, if you're playing the large field, I think there's only 700 teams in tomorrow's big jam. But he's a guy that can do some rebounding, can chip in a few assists, and his steal rate's 5%, so you definitely don't mind that. He's got tourney upside, but he's taken 30 shots in the last 2 games, so you love that. The question is like, can he get 30 minutes like secured? And also, like, is the ball going to go to him? So this revolving door with all these guys of St. John's, these guys that come in and play, 10, 11 guys that come in, some of them play 8 minutes. Well, those 8 minutes take away from, Chris Ledlum or an RJ Luis. So you're just kind of missing that, which is certainly annoying. So, Eric, Dennis Jenkins, man, he's been rough to roster recently. So what are your thoughts on him? And are you going to stick him in one of your lineups?
Yeah, it hasn't been fun rostering Jenkins over these last couple of games. Definitely on a bit of a skid, but I feel like this is kind of a get right spot, right? Like his opponent in Xavier is one of the rare teams that can pace up St. John's, but also they've been giving up some huge games to guards on the season. They're 355th in the country in opponent assist rate. That plays right into Jenkins' hand. He carries a 34% assist rate, and while this rotation, 10, 11, 15 man coming off the bench for the Red Storm is annoying, Dennis Jenkins is out on the floor a pretty fair amount. He's breaking 30 minutes pretty regularly. So if he's not scoring, he's got a good chance of being the one who is assisting on a good percentage of the points for tomorrow's game. So like how this one sets up for Ledlum, don't think he's going to be too popular because he is coming in on a bit of a skid.
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, Jenkins, would you say this is his comeback game? No. Okay.
Yeah, I would say it. I'm with it, right?
Don't call it a comeback.
I've been burned by so many of these guys that we try to jump on when they're having these terrible games and not happening. So I don't know, man. It's super frustrating.
Well, let's hope to see good things from Jenkins there. Let's go ahead and move on over here to Xavier, using a 9-man rotation, but starters they're getting a heavy run. Mike, who are you going with the Xavier side of things here?
Yeah, I mean, I always look at Desmond Claude. Like the price is a little annoying in this spot. I mean, St. John's has been decent on defense in conference, so he was hoping to get these guys for $500 cheaper than what they come in at. Claude obviously a high shot rate, on the floor a ton. Struggling to shoot the 3 this year, but he's getting to the basket. Had a 21% assist rate, so you like that. I don't know that I can get to him at 7,500. I'd rather take a shot at somebody like Davian McKnight, who's 6,200. I like the floor that McKnight's going to give you. Another guy that's going to play 30-ish minutes. Now, obviously, the usage rate and shot rate leave a little bit to be desired, but he has a high assist rate. He shoots threes at a pretty good clip, and he's a guy that plays a lot of minutes. So he's giving you 25, 27, 32, 25, 29 at 6,200. I mean, you're looking at 25 being a 4X. He's got a little bit of juice, in this game that's projected to have 154 points scored. So, he knocks down an extra 3 or 2, and now you're talking about somebody that is paying off 5X. So, Davion McKnight, certainly interesting. Kind of around that price point, $100 more at the forward position is Abu Usman. He hasn't been doing much lately, but Xavier's kind of been in a weird spot, which is why I thought we'd get some price drops. I mean, we had the blowout on Sunday, UConn beating them by 43 points or something stupid. That game was, the game was over 5 minutes into it. So I thought we'd get a little bit of a price drop for some of these guys. Like Usman dropped a 9, Claude dropped a 14. McKnight still had a 25. He was like the only guy that did anything. But Usman needs to be in there. Like, he's kind of their one big that can have any shot at stopping Soriano. High rebounding rate, a decent shot rate, 6% block rate. I'm just worried about foul trouble going up against Soriano. So, I mean, he's in the player pool maybe as a game stacking option. Like, I wouldn't mind it if you're heavy stacking, something like Usman and McKnight to go along with Ledlum. You're kind of sticking in that mid-tier price range, or even going to a Soriano where you have to take a value play somewhere else. So don't mind that. Trey Green, he had that crazy game against Providence like 4 or 5 games ago, where I think it was either Olivari or McKnight got into foul trouble. He's a great 3-point shooter. I mean, he's in the player pool for value in case one of the guards gets, and they got to kind of get in foul trouble or just have an off night, because the guards will play 30+ minutes easily, and Trey Green's not guaranteed more than 10 minutes a night. So, if he's able to get on the floor and play 23 minutes, I mean, he's capable of dropping a 33 like he did at Providence. That was a crazy game. Watched that one. It basically took over the game at the end. But he's going to be a fun player to roster next year once some of these guys are out of here. For 4,200, I mean, as a game stack, and you hope this game goes over and maybe he gets more run potentially. But, I mean, he's more of a secondary value play. I don't think he's going to be 1% owned. I don't think you really need to go here. So for me, man, like, really, I'll take a look at Claude. I have some interest in Usman and McKnight. Do you have any interest in anybody else on this squad?
I mean, I think we can talk about Quincy Olivari, right? Like, the reality is, like, you've got that dud in the last game where basically Xavier didn't even get off the bus, right? Put up a 15, but prior to that, 30, 39, 37, like, he's got 35 to 40 point upside on any given night. A lot of that has to do with his shot rate, 26% in that regard. And the vast majority of those shots, it feels like, are from downtown. 132 3-point attempts, shooting 44% from behind the arc. So a lot to like about how this, how Olivari's playing on any given night. In this game in particular, I mean, St. John has been solid defending the 3, right? So I think you're looking at more of a tournament option for Quincy here. But, ultimately, one that I think you can make a defendable case for him being in the player pool, and you certainly love that upside at the low 7Ks. Beyond that, I mean, we can go to Swain. He's got guard forward eligibility, which we always love, 5.1K. He's been getting the start at the 4 over these last couple of games, right? So, like, a guy in this price tag who's getting a decent number of minutes is always going to be a bit interesting. But then you put it in context, everyone was ready to go all in on Swain in that UConn game. And like I mentioned, Xavier pretty much didn't show up from the jump. So put up a 4, just absolutely blew up people's lineups. I don't think that people are going to want to go back there. I mean, he was super high owned. We know that that the hell hath no fury, like a DFS player scorned. So now I think he might actually create a little bit of leverage, right? Like, he still flashes good upside for the price. He's got a 30 here in his game log recently. So you put that in the context of no one wanting to go back to the well, and Swain's an interesting way to get into the Xavier side, if nothing else.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, while I was doing the work and kind of going through all the numbers here for the show today, I mean, McKnight was one of the guys that I kind of like, man, stability. I see stability there, and that's something I will be playing him. I can tell you that, probably along with 50% of the other people playing him. And we'll see how that goes. But before we move on to our next showcase game, this comment section is going crazy. We have Mama Rocks. Missed y'all last night. We missed you, Mama Rocks.
Yep.
Hopefully you missed playing Renault 80% today. Yeah.
Yeah, he was a dud. Oops.
And then there's that.
Yeah.
She played Baycott and him together. Yeah, we're getting to that Florida UK game. We got some good stuff on that. We have
Taylor back.
Yeah, I'll be watching the morning. Good luck, everyone. I was like, GL. Good luck for Mama Rocks. Scott Harris coming in. What is the best source for injury and lineup news for college basketball? Always enjoy the show. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Scott.
Harris. Yeah, dude. So I saw your comment, man. Sorry, we had a kind of a weird day today. earlier today. So we didn't forget you, man. We were gonna jump in there, but appreciate you commenting. That's the thing about college basketball, even college football. Like, it is so hard to find injury news. I mean, I use like RotoWire updates, beat reporters for the teams, put the notifications on. Starting lineups are a good indication. If you do not see a normal starter in the game, I almost automatically pull him out because that means he's probably hurt and we don't know about it. And unfortunately, like Cam says here, the Twitter search function, I am banging on that thing like 3 minutes before lock. It's super annoying because then like you find it and then it's like you have these lineups and you're like, where the hell do I need to go to like fix this? And so, yeah, it can get kind of crazy. But now that we're into conference play, like a lot of the teams we do get decent reporting, at least where you can kind of predict what's going to happen. Whereas earlier in the season, when you have mid-majors that no one's covering, and it's kind of like, well, I hope the guy's in the game because I have no idea and no one's reporting on Stonehill. So good luck to you. But yeah, man, appreciate the question there. And yeah, best way to do it is to follow all the teams, turn the notification bells of the teams that are on the slate about 30 minutes before lock, and yeah, just see what pops up, and you'll be surprised. To had somebody the other day, Victor Locken, who's on this slate and has the Q tag by his name, had nothing on him, and on Sunday decided to miss the game due to illness. But it was like right at lock or like 2 minutes after lock. There was no chance for me to, I got to pay attention to my wife and kids every now and then, so. No chance to get that taken care of. But yeah, great question, man. Eric, anything you can maybe add to that? That maybe you have any tips or anything, man?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's not really a great answer to it because oftentimes we're either not getting any information or we're getting it 42 seconds before lock. Anytime that we get some early information, we make it a point to try to tweet it out from the one and done CBB handle, specifically anything that's pertaining to the DFS slate, right? If we talked about someone that was questionable, we talked about a player that we're playing, if a guy is out, if we get that news in advance, we'll usually share that out. So make sure you're following us there on Twitter. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of a scramble, and
it's kind of like you got to play the if then, right?
Whenever we can,
like the if then, like we have to know what. Yeah. Like I assume everybody questionable is out, and then I look to like how I would play it, and I play the rosters that way, and then. When you get the news that the person's in, I'm like, okay, you gotta have the backup plan and who you're gonna go. Who's that secondary value guy you were thinking about going to? That's really the only way to do it because if you're trying to project the guy in, it's just that much harder, honestly. So I just project them all out with questionable tags until I get some type of confirmation, and then I adjust accordingly. Because it's a lot easier to know who's starting for these teams because if you play CBB all the time, it's like you're gonna know the starters. It's a lot harder to know. That when Norchad goes out, it's Michael Nwoko or AJ Casey, and then whoever enters the starting lineup on the Twitter page is the guy you want to go to, and they go 5x at 3,200. So that's kind of an example that you look for. So it's little things like that you want to just try to be aware. So sourcing, man, honestly, KenPom, Minutes Matrix, RotoWire. There's just so many sources that are out there, but nothing's going to give you like a complete drroto.com, our Discord page, man. We're in there. Me, Eric, we'll drop in some news in there. So if you subscribe to that Discord channel, you'll get that information. You can ask us personal questions. That thing usually blows up in February and March, so we're looking forward to it.
How personal are those questions?
Very personal.
We got our king of the single entries coming in the comments here. Soriano State burn.
That's why we haven't seen any of those $5 single entry green screens.
All right, thanks again, guys. Thanks for all the questions, y'all. Keep them coming. We are going to go ahead and move on with this showcase game. Our next showcase game here is, as Mama Rocks had said, Florida +6 at Kentucky, a whopping 174 total here. Florida implied at 84, Kentucky implied at 90. Florida has the 13th offense, 99th defense, 18th in tempo. That's pretty quick. 209th in bench minutes. They're all sprinting down there. 209th in bench minutes used. And then you have Kentucky, who's 9th in offense, 70th in defense, 13th in tempo. So they're running even faster. They're running laps. And 215th in bench minutes used. We have some really top offenses here and some really fast tempo teams here. Mike, we're going to start with Florida here. 7-man rotation with starters getting big minutes. What say you on this?
Yeah, we nailed this game last time. So they played this game. We'll start with Zion Pullen, who was one of the guys that had a really good game. We were all over Pullen. We were all over Clayton. We were all over Riley Kugel. So all those guys had flames next to their name. We talked about really using the Florida side and maybe a one-off Kentucky side. My lineups that did the best were ones where I didn't play any Kentucky guys, which is so awkward to say with a 90-point implied total. So here we go again. Another fast-paced game, 87-85 in that first one, projected to go upwards of 84-90 in this one. So Zion Pullen, man, like he's the straw that stirs the drink. Decent usage, really good assist rate, 38% from three. So you like that, man. Like the price is what's killing me, guys. Like I loved him when he was at 7,200, 7,000, 7,300. This 8K. A little bit more tough to stomach, especially coming off of that Georgia game where everyone is just inflated due to that. That was absolute madness. Game absolutely crushed me, even though I had a few pieces in it. But, you know, when you go down the line here and you just kind of look at this Florida roster, like the pricing is just easier to get to than it is this Kentucky side. So Walter Clayton, probably in one of my favorite tournament plays on the slate. He's 6,900. He went 23-3, as well as, you know, him and Pullen went 23-3 together against Kentucky. I mean, shoots a ton of threes, high shot rate. You know, he's not going to get you a ton of rebounds or assists, but he'll fall over some. He's playing, you know, really good minutes. You know, hasn't really had that blow up game recently, but we know he has 35 to 40 fantasy point upside. So I definitely don't mind going to him. Will Richard is the guy that's on the heater that we haven't really talked about him the last couple of times we've talked about Florida. One, he was kind of splitting minutes with Riley Kugel, who has basically just been X'd out of this this team right now and just not really getting any minutes. And Richard, you know, a guy that only a 19% shot rate, a 14% rebounding rate, and then he shoots a ton of threes. So, like, that profile at 6,800, I mean, it doesn't excite me a ton. You know, last game he had 37 fantasy points. I mean, he only shot 1 for 7 from three, but he got 14 shots. So if he's going to get 14, 15 shots, if the rebounds are kind of going to go his way, kind of be outliers, 7, 9, and then he's going to pick up stocks, which, I mean, those aren't really his forte. So I'm not as high. And now you get the price increase. I'd rather just pay the $100 more for Clayton, or maybe play for some of these forwards. When you got Tyrese Samuel sitting there at 7K. Now he's starting to come down in price. I mean, we know he's got upside. I don't really ever play him. I wish he was closer to 6,500, then I would think about him as a stacking partner with someone like Clayton. But the 7K, man, it still just seems a little bit too much, even though we know he has, you know, 30 to 35 upside, Eric. But it's kind of been hand-locked in that's been keeping him from kind of getting those big games, man. And the guy that we really haven't talked about much at all on this Florida side, it seems like a revolving door with who's going to crush the slate on the Florida side, man. So what's your thoughts on hand-locked?
This is why we can't have nice things, right? Like, goes out, and credit to him, like just completely blew the roof off the doors with that game against UGA. 47 fantasy points, a 23-17 double, and then they flip out and raise his price tag to 7.1K, right? So $1,100 increase. I mean, look, like, we've clearly seen his best game of the season, and now we're having to pay for it too. Like, I don't think that we really have to go here, right? Like, chasing is never something I'm gonna advocate for. You know, that matchup in particular against Georgia, as Mama Rock's can attest to, kind of let big men do whatever they want. So, you know, this game environment against Kentucky isn't quite as friendly. And yeah, I mean, having to pay for that ceiling performance on the next night's slate isn't exactly a winning proposition in DFS.
Yeah, for sure. Don't go chasing Hanlo, right? I'm not gonna sing. I'm not gonna sing. Don't worry.
Do it. It's part of being a host.
Nah, no, it's a prerequisite. I got you.
I've heard your singing voice too, man. It's nice. So don't be shy.
It sings like an angel. All right.
You know how to make
it's like a combination of who is it? Jesus and Fergie.
Fergalicious. Let's go. We got next down the line here, Kentucky. They're running an 8-9 man rotation. It's been a clear picture the last few games. Eric, I'm gonna run to you on this one. Who are you thinking of taking on this? Is Trey Mitchell worth it?
Maybe. Probably not at this price tag. 8K is just wild. I mean, he's been floating around here for a little bit, right? So we're not talking about a huge increase overall. It's just, I don't think that he should sit around this level for as long as he has. I mean, the thing that has him priced up in this way is just he does it in so many different ways. Like his usage and his shot rate aren't insane, but 24% rebounds, 15% assist is nice for a big man. 4% block, right? Those are obviously very valuable stats. It just, he feels like he's a bit more of a floor play. Obviously, with this 8 or 9 man rotation, it's hard to, for really any of these guys to reach back and get to their ceiling. And just the price in general on this side of the game, it's not the best. It's a little annoying. So if you're talking cash, I think you can make a defendable case for Mitchell, but I don't find myself going out of my way to get there. Almost the exact opposite case is that of Reed Sheppard, 6.6K. I mean, look, like we're gonna keep talking about him anytime that Kentucky is on the slate, right? Like, it's kind of the same deal. Big rates, little minutes, right? Like always an intriguing tournament option. He can reach back and get to a pretty decent ceiling. But ultimately, with Rob Dillingham here, we're talking about a guy that you're really rolling the dice. Like he can pop off at any given point, but the lows are fairly low, right? He'll get you a 26 and then he'll turn around and toss you a 7. So if you want to spin that wheel in that way, you can do it, but you're definitely taking on some risk with Dillingham.
Yeah, but man, like at some point, he plays 27 minutes, he puts 50 on Kansas. So I mean, I don't know why
it's gonna happen at least one more time. We just don't know when, right?
Yeah, I mean, Sheppard's kind of the same way, man. Like it's been annoying too, right? Like both of these guys don't play very many minutes. You kind of mentioned Sheppard as well. He's a guy that has a ton of rates that you look at and you're like, man, if he just played 30 minutes. You'd really like to go to him, and he's number 1 in the country in 3-point percentage. Number 1 for guys that qualify, 55% from 3. I feel like he should probably take 12 threes a game. I don't know. That's maybe not. I don't know. Maybe I'm off on that. So Coach Cal knows better than me. So I'll let him, run the rotations out there. But we've seen Reed Sheppard go for 38, 40. So both of those guys, Dillingham and Sheppard, are significant. Like they're interesting in tournaments. I think the difference is with Dillingham, right? Like you're not going to get the minutes, or at least you're not going to get 30 minutes with Sheppard. Sometimes you'll get the high 20s, you'll get the 30 minutes. But this Kentucky side overall, I mean, really, like all these guys, $500 overpriced. I would say, like Antonio Reeves at $7,900. I'm not that interested. Like. He's really just got like 4x ceiling. It feels like at this. Like, can he put up a 40? Yeah, but you're not going to get like slate breaking like 50s from him at 8K. So, super shot dependent, and sometimes these guards they like to like Dillingham and even the guy like DJ Wagner. They just like to chuck, and it kind of keeps Antonio Reeves grounded for it's a type of ceiling game. Wagner at 6,100. I think he's okay for tournaments. I mean, we know he has 35 fantasy point upside. So, like, if I had to play one guy on the other side, it might be him in a large field tournament. I feel like just price adjusted in his upside, I feel like he's maybe the best play. Obviously, Vistage, we saw the first game, and he hasn't really been a factor in the last couple. I don't know why he's still 6,100. I guess the algorithm takes into account that 33. So, I don't think you can go to a Vistage at all because he's not really playing any minutes. So, I mean, this Kentucky side, like every time we talk about him, it's just super annoying, Chris. Like, I don't know, man. Who would you take a shot on, man? Would you go with someone like Dillingham who has high rates and could smash for 35 and really pay off a 5x, or would you think he'd play a little bit safer with someone like Antonio Reeves at a higher price, or DJ Wagner, who?
It's one of those things. It's one of those things, man. Like we were talking about it before, how Dillingham, it's going to happen sometime, right? It's got to happen. And you want to be the person that plays him. You want to be the person that plays him that when it happens, because you're going to miss the boat if you continue to go with what you're doing. but I'm going to go with the more safer Antonio Reeves if it's on me. I mean, you can find some other value in a lot of other places too that I can see. So yeah, I would probably go with Reeves over Dillingham there. The other big one is Ivicic. Man, Big Z, man. He was everything. Everybody was all on him for that 33, and then he puts up 2 in the last game, man. Like, yikes! Yeah. And yeah, being 6,100 is not great there. Well, let's. That is that game there, Kentucky and Florida. We have a couple other comments here. One from Cam. I think he was replying over to Corey's Soriano Baycott post. They all stay killing me, man.
We talked about that yesterday, man.
God, exactly.
Like, come on.
And then Scott Harris saying, "Thanks, guys. Keep up the great work." Thank you, Scott.
Hand lock.
Appreciate you getting in there. And like I said, we want to answer any questions that anybody has. Get in those comments. Get in tell your friends, like and subscribe. Tell your fellow hoop heads out there, hoop heads and hoop headettes out there. Get your friends and family out there. And like I said one time before, if you have one guy that's annoying at work, we'll take him. Just tell him to subscribe. Take his phone away and just have him click that notification button. But moving on to our third game here, we have Alabama -7 at Georgia. We're looking at a 163 total here. Bama is implied at 85, and Georgia, those Bulldogs, are implied at 78. Bama, number 1 in offense. We have the 66th defense, 20th in tempo, so they're playing fast, and 151st in bench minutes used. Georgia, 84th in offense, 52nd in defense, 87th in tempo. So still a top 100 team in tempo there, 94 in bench minutes used. Bama, another 9-10 man's rotation here, but the guards are getting 30 minutes. Mike, I mean, is Sears the guy? I mean,
that's Corey's guy. That's Corey's guy, man. At 8,600, Corey can play him all day. I mean, when you start getting into this, you need value when you play guys at this price point, right? And there's a certain guy we're going to talk about in a little bit that can put up 70 fantasy points. So I don't know that I'm going to find my way to Mark Sears at 8,600. The thing is, though, Georgia's defense has been awful in league play. I mean, they're giving up 10 more points per 100 possessions. We saw what Florida did to them. So there's an opportunity for 3 or 4 guys to go nuclear here. I think I have more interest in someone like Aaron Estrada. He's 7,400. High usage rate, high shot rate, high assist rate, solid rebounding rate, a 3% steal rate, shoots 36% from 3. So when you look at like the matchup, I feel like Estrada kind of profiles similarly to Pullen with actually a little more upside, honestly. I mean, Pullen had 27 and 8. I know it was an overtime game, but that's something that Estrada is known for putting up 20 points, 5 rebounds, 7 assists, and actually swiping a couple of steals and hitting some threes. So love the price tag, saved the $1,200 off of Mark Sears. I really like Aaron Estrada. These other guys down here, Latrell Whitesell's 6,000. I don't know that I can pay that for him. He's been pretty good in the last couple of games. He's super shot dependent. You guys know I don't like pay for guys that are 17% shot rate and don't do much else. I mean, he's hitting threes, but if he's not hitting his threes, he's not going to get anywhere near value, which is when you find him getting into the teens and even sometimes single digits. So Latrell Whitesell, more of a large field sacking option. If you want to put him with someone like Estrada, I mean, I could see it because if he does have that big blow up game where he hits 5 or 6 threes, he will pay off that price tag. But some of the upside's kind of taken away from the price going up to 6,000. Nick Pringle, man, I don't think you can play him anymore. He's 4,400 now. A guy that is just so annoying because he has crazy upside, but one, he's just so volatile. 2, he's the only guy I know that can foul out in 6 minutes. 3, his usage rate and shot rate are terrifying. So I don't think you can play him. Just rather kind of stick to, someone like an Estrada. If you can find the money and you feel comfortable, I mean, okay to play Spears, but this Alabama side, I just find myself kind of getting to Estrada. There's Nelson and Griffin, Eric. I don't understand Grant Nelson's situation, man. This is kind of weird. I was looking forward to him maybe getting a haircut here, but I guess not.
And DraftKings had other plans, right? Not only is he not getting the haircut, his price continues to go up. He's up $600 to 7.6K. I don't get it either, right? Like, he hasn't been performing in a way that should justify this type of price increase. But also in the context of this game in particular, we only need go back to Handlockton, who put up 47 against this Georgia Bulldog front court, to at least make a pretty intriguing argument, right? So, like, he's, despite this price increase, I feel like Nelson's kind of in play, right? Like, I don't see how anyone kind of gets there. That, coupled with a pretty solid trend of big men beating up the Bulldogs, like I think Nelson's kind of sneaky in tournaments. So I'll overpay for Nelson. I'll be the Huckleberry. Everyone else, in this kind of tier, step down tier. The only name that you didn't mention, Rylan Griffin, 5.9K. I mean, like he's always like a boom bust tournament play, right? He can flash 5 or even 6x upside when his 3 ball is going in, where he's shooting 40% from downtown. When it's not, though, it gets kind of ugly, right? So, for me with Griffin in particular, if you're stacking the Alabama side, he's an option, right? 12% assist rate. You can get out a couple of dimes. You're really betting on threes going in for him, but at 5.9K as a secondary piece for the Crimson Tide, you can do worse than that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Griffin was one of those guys, another guy that I was looking at. I was like, man, he has that upside in him, especially with what happened with Georgia last week. Man, we'll see what happens.
They gave up almost 100 points. They do that again. There's going to be a lot of guys that look good from this Alabama side for sure. We got some
Mama Rocks knows all about that. Yep, Mama Rocks. My boy's about to get smoked.
We'll make it a good
game for you.
Well, there you go.
So speaking of those Georgia Bulldogs, we will move on to them right now. They are an 8 to 9 man rotation with a few guys getting 30 minutes. Mike, let's start with you. Who are you looking at in this side of the ball?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of annoying. The pricing, I guess, is okay for the pace up, but Alabama, I just don't know, man. Like Russell Shewa, like 6,900. It just takes everything to go right. I think like 8 of 9 from the field and needed overtime to like absolutely reach a ceiling with a 14% shot rate on the year. I get the reboundings there. I get he can block some shots. It feels ugly at 6,900 to do that, especially when Alabama has a ton of bodies they can throw out there. The rest of this team, like the pricing is like, okay, I'm interested. And then you look at like what's been going on. The rotations are kind of wonky. Mama Rock's going to test this. Like Silas DeMary, thought he'd be a good play against Florida, and then he's barely out there. He's at 6,500 now. I don't know what's going to happen. It feels like he should play 28 to 30 minutes, but I mean, you got some of these guys coming off the bench that are putting up some ridiculous fantasy points. So kind of terrifying. Large field option only. I don't think I'm going to get to him. I do have interest. I should not have interest, but I do have interest in Jabri Abdur-Rahim, just for the upside, man. But like you're just never guaranteed anything. Like he's kind of been more secure than anybody else as far as minutes go. I mean, 28 plus in the last 4, so you definitely don't mind that. He's a guy that loves to shoot the ball. He can get to the free throw line. A little bit of foul trouble, obviously in that last game, and then just an overall kind of a weird dynamic. 3 of the starters didn't really play that many minutes for Georgia, so it's a little scary to see what Mike White's going to do on this side of the ball. Justin Hill has that questionable tag. He played a pile of minutes in the overtime, dropped 30 fantasy points, so he might be out. Played 36 minutes in that game.
What is he, just tired from the last game or what?
Yeah, man. It's got the ankle issue, man. So you play that many minutes when you're not used to it. That ankle tends to let's see. Mama Rock's dropping in here. DeMary fouled out last game too. The rotations are annoying for sure. Yeah, I mean, I want to get into this, but I don't know because I'm just frustrated at what happened. And I think, Eric, you know why. I'm a little frustrated. Look who the price king. How the hell is this guy the price king on the Georgia side?
Yeah, I mean, talk about what a distance to cover, right? Like RJ Melendez, a guy that we were poking around, several $1,000s lower than this, at earlier points, and now here he is, most expensive player on the Georgia side, coming off of a 53 spot, right? But as we have documented several times over, don't chase in DFS, right? Like took the overtime for him to get up to that point. That high water mark goes out and gets over 2K added onto his price tag, right? And all of this is in the context that like he's not really guaranteed big minutes, right? Like, there are plenty of guys getting 33 minutes in a regulation game. He had to take overtime to get the 33. He can flirt around the low 20s or even, the mid teens in terms of his time out there, right? So like, it's super risky, and that overtime game, it really inflates these numbers to the point where like I don't see how anyone can really justify that price tag, but people love to chase, so I'm sure he'll draw a little bit of ownership, just not for me. Elsewhere, who do we need to hit on? Noah Thomason, 5.5K. I mean, look, like I'm not exactly sure what's happened to him, right? Like now we're kind of getting to a point with his price tag where like he's kind of fringing on tournament options, right? Like talented kid, it's just nothing seems to be going his way. I kind of feel like where we sit right now, I want to wait one more slate and just see it, right? Like yes, price decreases are wonderful, but when you're looking at a string of single digit games, low teen games, like you don't want to tank your lineup by trying to be the first one back in on Thomason when that rebound game is coming. So I'll probably leave him on the bench, but you can put him in the pool at a pretty low exposure overall if you want to.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think one thing that everybody should get from the show today is don't go chasing. I mean, that you just can't go do it. Don't go chasing waterfalls here. So we're good there. That's all 3 showcase games there, everybody. So we got that going. Now, while you're out there on your phone fiddling around, make sure you follow us, like and subscribe this channel. Follow us on Twitter. You got MCH Holland 34. You got Fantasy Nav for Eric here, our boy. You got myself, the real Napier, and I will always follow you back, just like our boy, Dr. William Cannon, Jay Heinrich. Make sure you go and follow all of us right now and help out the cause here. And speaking of our boy Jay Heinrich, I'm going to let you guys do something that he forbids you to do in these tiers here. I'm going to allow you guys to do 2 plays and only 1 fit.
Let's go.
AP Hustle's the fun substitute. I'm here for it.
Yeah. I'm the fun substitute. Yeah,
exactly.
We'll watch a movie later, okay?
Yeah. Yes.
Right on. Well, Mike, I'm going to start with you. I mean, we're going to go these high tiers. We're looking at 7,500 or more. Who are you looking at? I think I know the first one.
Yeah, I mean, Zach Edey, he's on the slate and he's 10-8. So it's always a question of what to do with this guy, man. Like, part of the reason I've been up and down this year is because I just don't roster him when it gets to this price tag. And I don't know. He played 36 minutes last game. Like, that's just don't. I mean, you just didn't think you were going to see that 2 years ago. He's been playing 36, 35 for – he's just there. Like, if you can find the value, you have to play him. I mean, Nate, I'm sure he's one of your favorite guys on one of your best lineups you had this year. So you just got to find a way to get him in. But, damn, it's a tough task to do it. And Northwestern, like, they're scrappy, man. Like, obviously there's going to be a revenge narrative, Purdue wanting to get them back after the old upset at Northwestern earlier this year. So I'm just the guy that usually fades. But, when you're putting up 60s and 70s, I have to kind of go against my ways and use you as a play. So I'm going to try to find ways to get Zach Edey in. I don't think he's going to be an auto fade for me at this price. He can't be just because he's absolutely crushing slates. Second guy,
dude, he could be at 11.5. I would still play him.
Absolutely, man. You get 12, and I mean, people still roster him. Like, it's nuts. But yeah, I'll go down here to Sean East. $3,100 cheaper at the guard position. The guard from Missouri playing Arkansas. I mean, just so much volume here. Arkansas has been terrible defensively. They're dead last in the conference in defensive efficiency in the SEC. They're giving up a ton of 3 balls. So maybe an extra half point here or there for Sean East, who's coming off almost a 40 spot at South Carolina, who has been playing really good this year. I don't know if you know, they went to Tennessee and beat Tennessee today. So, Sean East put up that kind of production, against South Carolina on the road. I do like this here with the old Piggies coming to town. So I will play me some Sean East where I can. In this tier, I will fade Sexy Can I, Ray J. Dennis, the guard for Baylor at 8,300 at UCF. This total is kind of ugly. It's 131 points. He got the big price increase, $1,100 after a really nice game against TCU. But guess what? It was 50 minutes in that game, triple overtime to get to a 45. So I don't like the price increase. I'm not going to be spending that on the road in an ugly total. That's just not what you do in DFS. So Ray J. Dennis is a cross off for me. Eric, what say you on these other plays over 7,500?
Well, first and foremost, I'm going back to the well, right? Like forever Janai Broome, anytime that we're talking about tournaments, actually went out and saw 34 minutes and played pretty well in that last game. He's on a streak, 3 of his last 4, 34 points, 55 points, 42 points. In this game in particular, gets a pretty soft matchup against the Commodores. So definitely like how this one sets up at point K. My other play, I'm going to go over to Tremont Mark here, right? On the other side of that Arkansas-Mizzou game. I mean, the Tigers, they have a tendency of giving up fantasy points in bunches, right? So Mark, in particular, he's getting that run, right? 38, 32, 40 minutes in the last 3 games, taking a ton of shots, right? Like, anytime that you're going to get a guy that has that type of shot rate, is on the court that often in, the mid 7Ks, don't mind going there whatsoever. And then for my fade, I'm going to go to Devin Carter. A lot of this has to do with price tag, right? Like, getting to essentially 10K, on a slate where you can maybe move some things around and find your way up to a Zach Edey. That's always part of the consideration. Also, real tough road game against UConn, right? So like, there's not a whole lot of ways that you can get to Edey and someone else in this price tag. So a little bit more of a flag plant for me. But as we sit here the night before, I'm not finding a whole lot of ways I can get to Devin Carter. So I'll list him as my fade.
Gotcha. Right on. Well, that is the high tier. Let's move on down to that mid tier. We'll do the same thing, 2 plays, 1 fade. We're going to go between 5,100 and 7,400 here. Who are you guys looking at? Let's start with Mike again. We'll give you the shot here, Mike.
Yeah, man. I hate saying this. Play Carl Carrington. That just sounds like a trap. But I mean, 6,500. Like, you have to take shots on him, man. Like, I mean, the minutes are kind of been there the last couple of games. He's a boom bust tourney option only. I just feel like there's going to be some fantasy points scored by the guards here in this Wake Pitts game from both sides. I mean, he's gone for 24 and 33. He's still not quite shooting it well, but he's taking double-digit shots. I mean, he has the highest assist rate on the season. At 6,500, like, if you start getting some shots to go, man, you can get yourself a nice little 5X out of him. So don't mind Carrington. I also, on the other side of this game, for tournaments only, like Kevin Miller, the guard from Wake Forest. He is now down to 6,900. So getting that good price decrease, right? I was playing him at 7,900. So why would I not play him at 6,900? Minutes still in the 30s, lower 30s now. Still taking a lot of shots. Still involved in the offense, even though you've got Damari Monsanto back, still has 35 to 40 upside. And we always love weight guards because no one rosters them. So definitely going to take a shot at Kevin Miller. And for a fade, I won't do it, man. I can't do this Lance Jones thing. It's sweeping the nation. It's costing me money. He's 6,800 against Northwestern. He's just super shot dependent. I'm not I would have lost everything. My house, my wife, my car. If you'd have told me he would have 10 rebounds and 8 assists at Rutgers, and 5 steals, that is an absolute outlier. And these other games against Michigan and Iowa, very poor defenses, really knocking down threes in those games. Didn't even hit a 3 against Rutgers. So I'm not going to chase that. He's a guy that generally lives in the 25 range. So I'm just not going to go to Lance Jones, especially at a near 7K price tag. So those will be my 2 plays and a fade. Eric, what you thinking?
I'll basically make the same argument that you did, but in this case for Hunter Salas, right? Like another Wake guard that is going to be overlooked. The price is right at 7K. I mean, he's always in play for tournaments, right? He can get you 35 to 40 pretty much, at a moment's notice. And, kind of like you mentioned with Miller, like despite Monsanto's return, Miller and Salas are still getting a good amount of run, right? A ton of usage. So don't mind going to Salas. Other play, I'll go over to Tamari Bates. You made a pretty compelling argument for East on the Mizzou side. I think you can say a lot of the same things with Bates, right? Like he's one of the 2 guys for the Tigers that's just taking all the shots. That does make him a little bit shot dependent. He's kind of right at the tippy top of that range where we're comfortable with it. But also, if you're looking through his game log, like he's been getting you 25 plus pretty consistently, 4 out of the last 5. So finding a few ways to get it done at this 6.1K price tag. And then for my fade, I'll have a Mark Burton. I mean, look, the thing with him in particular, like I'm not really interested in anyone from this game, right? Like I think the thing that has people at least considering it is the minutes are there for him. But I mean this game in particular, like I kind of feel it's going to be a dumpster fire. So minutes are great and all, but like I'm not going to go out of my way to get into an undesirable game environment.
First to 50 wins.
Yeah, like one of those guys is going to score like 10 points in the first half and be like, But looks like we got a comment in there from Cam. What we got here? Joel, I think you mean Jesse Edwards at 6,900. If he gets 28 plus, what do you think?
Yeah, looking at him, man. I mean, he played what? I think we had him here at 16 minutes, scored 13 fantasy points. So yeah, we know he's a fantasy point per minute guy. I'm worried that he won't get that many minutes, but if he does, he'll probably be a slate winner. So great call there. I don't know if Joel Edwards is his evil twin, but Cam, Jesse Edwards at 6,900 for West Virginia, certainly in play. So appreciate the comment there.
There we go. We also had Mama Rocks come in. It's like Christmas with 2 plays and a fade. Mama Rocks, just think of me of like that coach that comes in to substitute and just, do whatever you want. Play games on your phone. Let's just have a good time here. And then we have Cam coming back. Yes, Jesse, my bad. No, we got you back, Cam. We got you back on all of this. Now let's go ahead and move on to the low plays. So who am I going to pair with Zach Edey here to find some value so I don't have to go?
You need it. I need it.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you can look at Antoine Jones, the guard from UCF. Now, Jamari Allen is questionable, but regardless, like he kind of had a role the game before, so he's been playing really well. Played 25 minutes in the last 2 games. He put up a 22.5 and nearly a 23.5. So we might not even need Allen out. But this guy, only playing like 12 minutes on the season and just really kind of getting some run here lately. And kind of the same thing that happened with Weaver from Texas. Like, guy plays 6 to 8 minutes and all of a sudden starts playing 22 to 25 minutes, and he's, at this value price point, and you take a shot at it, and when he hits 5X, you're feeling you're living life. So if Allen's out, man, I'm gonna have a hard time not just plug and playing this guy. So we'll have to pay attention to the news on that. Eric, what other value you seeing out there?
Yeah, for me, I mean, this is pretty simple, right? Like we can go over to Chandler Lawson, 4.6K, getting that matchup against Missouri that we like to take advantage of. But I mean, the calculus is pretty simple. Like as long as he's starting, and he has been lately, he's going to continue to be in the player pool, right? Like 3 out of his last 4, he's gotten you 16, 16, 21. You can't really do much better than a mid 4K price tag for a guy that's in the starting rotation. So I'll go back to the well with Lawson here down in the value tier.
Hey, man, Cam going back to the UCF side, which is dangerous at this 131-point total, saying that at Thierno Silla at 3,900. Woo! I mean, neither guy say neither Lawson or Silla, but obviously Silla getting 29 minutes last game. You like to see that at 3,900, but I mean, he's not really a focal point for them, and I kind of wonder about their minutes. If he's going to take 10 shots, then I'm probably in on it. But not really a guy that does much, and he's basically 4K, so you kind of want a 16 to feel good about it. And hey, man, any way you can get it. If you want to play Zach Edey, you're not taking some shots on these guys. Cam, I don't mind it, especially at that forward position, and a couple of these guys that we just talked about. We'll have to pay attention. Injury news could change everything, so stay tuned to us so we can get you those green screens. Absolutely,
and so those are our tiers. I don't know if it's a one-time only. If we're going to be doing the 2-and-1s here, we'll see what if everybody liked it so much. Maybe we can force Jay to allow it. We'll see. But we'll go.
He's a strict teacher, man. I don't know. He's just like giving spankings and timeouts.
Hey, what happens behind closed doors? Over there with him. We'll go ahead and move on to everybody's favorite part here. Let's build up. Let's help you build your lineup here. Give you a nice core four. I'm going to give you your cash core for tomorrow's slate, and I'm going to start with Chandler Lawson. We just the aforementioned Chandler Lawson, forward out of Arkansas at 4,600, and it's me. You know I'm going to put Edey in there. Edey's in there, forward from Purdue at 10.8. I mean, you got to have him in there. He's just Mr. Consistent. We're going to have Tamar Bates at guard from Missouri, 6,100. And then Hunter Salas, guard from Wake Forest. Those Wake Forest guards that everybody sleeps on at 7,000. That leaves you with $5,375 left to get some more players in there. That is your cash core. Chandler Lawson, Zach Edey, Tamar Bates, and Hunter Salas. Eric, what about that tournament core? How you got on there?
Yeah, the tournament core is going to be quite different from the cash core. We talked about it in the showcase game. Walter Clayton is a player that just does so much for these Gators and brings legitimate ups on any given slate. Yes, we are absolutely doing it. We're going back to the well with Joel Soriano. He's emptying out Corey's pockets. I think in this game in particular, this is one where he can things back on track and be in a pretty good spot to pay off a fairly reasonable price tag. Mike mentioned it in our old mid-tier Carrington from Pitt, a player that I was all over last Saturday. Started that slate completely red hot. Ultimately did well enough to pay off that price tag. 6.5K does very well for him in this Tuesday slate. And then lastly, our default Bama player, if you don't want to pay up for Spears, you're paying down for Estrada. He is 7.4K. So a lot of upside with this build. Obviously brings a little bit of volatility, but similarly walking away from this one with 53.75 per player remaining.
Perfect. Good stuff there. I mean, volatility is what's really going to win you in these tournaments, right?
Yep,
I mean,
absolutely.
if you hit, that's what we're looking for. That's
Cam
why we had
Cam says he's playing Soriano because he had 55 against Xavier a month ago. Hoping people didn't see that. It's Soriano. We tried doing this with Post today. We tried doing it with Baycott today, and here we go. It's like Groundhog Day right now with these.
Me and you, Cam. Let's ride.
There you go. Well, those are our cores. Put them in. Show us your green screens when you get them. But Mike, I just want to go to you one more time. Do you have any closing thoughts for this show today?
Yeah, you got to. I think the first thing you have to decide is if you're going to play Zach Edey or not. Every time he's on the slate like that. I mean, that's the main question, whether to play. I know you're playing him, Chris. Eric, I know he likes to be a little different like me, and I just have a problem with the price tag every time because I'm that guy that and I'm sure everybody does this. You click in, you put a bunch of guys in, and then it's always $900 over, and you're like, well, that sucks because I really want this lineup. And Zach Edey tends to get me closer to 1,500, 2,000 more than what I'm supposed to do. So Yeah, I think you have to take a hard stand. It's just like Shibwe. It's like Luka Garza from a few years ago. You just make a stand and or play it 50-50, however you want to do it. If you're playing a lot of lineups, I would say just split it right down the middle. If you're playing like a single entry and you have a gut feel one way or the other, just play them or fade them. So I think that's the first thing you have to decide. And then figuring out which of these showcase games you can really get into. Kentucky, a little weird on the pricing. Florida's got some guys that are all like Will Richard and Hanlockton that coming out of nowhere. Alabama plays a bunch of guys. Their pricing's kind of weird. Georgia's rotation's out of whack. These are the high totals. St. John's, you just don't know what's going to happen. Sometimes Xavier's kind of safe, but tough matchup for them. So those are the big totals that are on the board. So you may want to take a look into some of these, these mid 140s games as far as like game stacking environments. Like I think Eric mentioned it earlier, like this Wake Forest Pitt game, Arkansas, Missouri. Like these games are certainly interesting. Jesse Edwards news, if we find out he's full go at 6,900, he's a 9K player. So I don't know if we need to fall in love with the showcase games, but we need to know who's going off in those games. Because when you have a total at 174, and there's going to be one guy that goes for 6 exits, so you just got to figure out who it is. But yeah, Eric, any final thoughts on this thing, man, before we wrap this up?
Man, I think you really hit the major points, right? Specifically around these two games that have the insane totals. Like everyone's going to be in there, so if you're gonna splash around in those waters, you have to try some different things in order to get unique with your exposure to those games, but also every player that you roster outside of those two games is creating legitimate leverage on the field, right? So like, don't feel like you have to go crazy in just overloading both sides, right? So if you're getting in there, be willing to kiss a couple of frogs. But if you're not, like you find the right couple of guys outside of those two games, and you're going to be laddering up real quick.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Well, I mean, that was a great show, guys. Thank you guys for everything. All the commenters out there, Mama Rocks, Cam, Taylor, Scott Harris coming in with that great question. And, of course, Corey coming in there. Really appreciate y'all. Make sure you go out there, tell your friends about us, get them to like and subscribe. Follow all the channels on Twitter. We have the One and Done CBB, right? At One and Done CBB. Scrolling right there on the bottom. Look at that. At One and Done CBB. And then at Get Green Screens for all that college basketball information. Go out there, make a stranger smile. You never know what people are going through. But other than that, let's go get this bread.
Thanks for stopping by the office. Get your fantasy prescription by subscribing to the channel and checking out drrodo.com. And until the next visit, be well and take care.